Book summary: The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. Have you ever felt like money slips through your fingers even when you're doing everything right? Studying, working hard, and playing by the rules? The truth is, most people don't lose money due to a lack of intelligence, but because of something more invisible and insidious, their own emotions. That's the weight on your chest when you open your banking app and see a negative balance. The knot in your stomach when you compare yourself to a neighbor who seems to live better. The anxiety that keeps you up at night when you think about an uncertain future. And this is exactly where this summary of Morgan Housel's book, The Psychology of Money will show you something that can transform your financial life. Because understanding money isn't just about finance, it's about psychology. Those who master their own minds when it comes to money master the game of life. So go ahead and subscribe to the channel and leave a like so you don't miss any insights that will free you from these emotional traps. The author reveals that it's not enough to know rules, strategies, or investments if you don't understand how your mind sabotages your decisions every day. Money isn't just logical, it's profoundly psychological. That's why two people can look at the same investment and make completely opposite decisions, one buying and the other selling, without either of them necessarily being wrong, because each choice is shaped by personal history, fears, and the unique experiences each person carries. It's as if everyone is playing on different boards but believes they're in the same game. Imagine a stockbroker who lost everything during the Great Depression. They might never be able to invest again, even if the market recovers. Now think about someone who made easy money during the dot-com bubble of the 90s. That person might feel invincible and take risks others would never accept. Or a young person who entered the market right after the 2008 crash and still gets chills every time they see a market downturn. Meanwhile, someone who became a millionaire with cryptocurrencies in 2017 might believe that extreme volatility is just part of the game. The same world, but completely different lenses. And here's the first trap the book shows us. You think you're logical, but in reality, you're just a prisoner of your own bubble. Your brain convinces you that your choices are rational because they make sense to you, but it forgets that this sense is shaped by scars, memories, and experiences only you have lived. The problem is that this bubble is too small and represents only a tiny fraction of reality, while you live trapped in your own experience. There are millions of situations you've never faced that continue to shape the market and the people around you. Another essential point is the illusion of control. We all like to believe we're masters of our own destiny, that those who win worked harder, and those who lost didn't try hard enough. But that's only half true. As Morgan Housel shows, luck and risk are powerful forces that shape every victory and every failure. Bill Gates, for example, was brilliant, disciplined, and strategic, but he also had the luck of studying at one of the few schools in the world that had access to a computer in the 70s. This seemingly small advantage was a golden ticket for years of practice before almost anyone else on the planet had even seen a screen. But his friend Kent Evans, equally brilliant and passionate about technology, died in an accident before finishing high school. The same talent, the same dedication, but radically different fates. Not everything is under our control. This leads us to a tough lesson. You can do everything right and still lose. And you can make mistakes and, by sheer luck, still win. That's the uncomfortable but necessary reality to accept. That's why it's dangerous to idolize individual success stories, because they often hide unrepeatable factors of luck or risk. Instead, what truly matters is studying patterns, because patterns repeat, are honest, and can be applied consistently, even when luck doesn't show up. More than that, patterns protect you from bad luck, ensuring that when good luck does emerge, you're still standing to seize it. Optimized insights: you're not as logical as you think. Your view of money is shaped by your history. Luck and risk influence success more than you imagine. The secret isn't in copying success stories, but in learning patterns that stand the test of time. And it's precisely this notion, that logic isn't enough and our emotions dominate the game, that paves the way for the next, even more dangerous trap. Because if believing you're logical is already an illusion, what happens when you believe you're in absolute control of your financial destiny? The second major lesson the psychology of money brings us is about the danger of believing that wealth lies in appearances. Humans have an irresistible tendency to flaunt status to be accepted, respected, or even envied, which is why so many people go into debt in pursuit of symbols of wealth. The luxury car, the designer clothes, the flashy watch, all of it seems like a sign of success. But deep down, It might just be the facade of someone drowning in debt. The most ironic thing is that when you buy something to impress others, they rarely think about you. They think about themselves. When they see your new car, they don't wonder if you're successful, but rather if they should have one just like it. And in the end, what you imagined was admiration is just fuel for endless comparison. This is a silent pain, because many believe they constantly need to prove their worth, that they've made it, that they've won. But true wealth, as Morgan Housel explains, is invisible. It's not in what you show, but in what you keep. It's in the money not spent, in the investments that grow in silence, in the freedom to say no to an abusive boss or a job that destroys your peace. It's the security of being able to support your family even in a crisis. True wealth doesn't shout, it whispers. And that's precisely why it's so hard to see. Here lies one of the greatest paradoxes of money. The more you feel the need to show you have, the less you actually possess. Because every public display is a private expense. It's the credit card that maxes out, the bank account that bleeds, the future consumed in exchange for a moment of vanity. And this race has no end, because there will always be someone with more luxury, more travel, more status. And the more you run in this game, the emptier you feel inside, because the measuring stick isn't yours, it's someone else's. This incessant search for validation is an emotional poison that consumes energy, time, and life. This is where many discover a hard truth. It's not the lack of money that destroys, but the lack of enough. The author emphasizes that having clarity on what enough means for you is one of the most powerful weapons against financial anxiety. Without it, no amount will ever be enough, because desire always grows faster than achievement. It's like running on a treadmill that never stops. You can speed up, sweat, exert yourself, but you remain in the same place. Only when you define what's enough can you get off the treadmill and finally breathe. This is the freedom few experience. But how do you find this enough? The answer begins with self-awareness, understanding that wealth is about time, choices, and peace of mind. Think about the power to decline an invitation simply because you don't want to, not because you can't. Think about the feeling of lying down at night and sleeping peacefully, knowing that if something goes wrong tomorrow, you have reserves to face it. That's true luxury, and it doesn't depend on brands but on conscious decisions. However, the biggest enemy of this enough isn't just external comparison, but our own brain that insists on believing we always need more. This illusion is fueled by social media, advertising, and the natural urge for status. And this is precisely where we need to apply one of the book's strongest lessons. Wealth is what you don't see, because every penny saved, every choice not to spend, is an invisible brick in building your freedom. And this freedom, unlike an imported car or an expensive watch, no one can take away from you. Optimized insights. True wealth isn't in what you show, but in what you save. Defining what enough is key to achieving peace and balance. Bought status is expensive vanity. Earned freedom is silent wealth. But if understanding that wealth is invisible is already a shock, it's even more disturbing to discover that, even when we manage to save and invest, our own emotions remain the biggest threat. Because it's not enough to accumulate money. You need to survive long enough in the game for it to work in your favor. And that leads us to an even more dangerous trap, one that turns great fortunes to dust. Surviving in the money game is far more important than looking smart for a few moments. Many people believe the key to wealth lies in always making the best decision, getting every investment right, and discovering the next big asset that's going to skyrocket in value. But the truth, as Morgan Housel explains, is that you don't need to be a genius to win. You just need to last. And that means weathering the storms, standing firm when everyone around you is panicking, and, most importantly, not self-sabotaging when emotions try to take over. History is full of examples of fortunes that evaporated overnight because their owners confused luck with skill or let greed get the best of them. How many times have you seen someone multiply money quickly and then lose it all on a bad bet? This happens because when we believe we're invincible, we start taking increasingly larger risks until a single fall knocks us down for good. Survival isn't glamorous. It doesn't make headlines, but it's what allows you to reap the fruits of the long term. And in the end, it's only in the long run that money truly shows its power. Think of Warren Buffett. Over 80% of his fortune only emerged after he turned 65, not because his strategies radically changed, but because he stayed in the game long enough. The magic wasn't his extraordinary intelligence, but the combination of consistency, patience, and survival. While others gave up or went bankrupt, he simply kept going. This shows that it's not necessary to win every battle. You just need to stay alive until the final victory arrives. But why do so many fail at this point? Because the human brain wasn't programmed for the long term. It craves immediate gratification, the shine of victory now, the feeling of immediate power, the dopamine hit of instant achievement. And the market, knowing this, bombards us with stimuli that fuel this weakness. News about those who got rich quickly, stories of unmissable opportunities, invitations to risky bets that seem too easy. It's like putting candy in front of a child and asking them not to eat it. The temptation is almost irresistible. Here lies a deep pain, the anxiety of believing you're falling behind. While you go at your own pace, saving, investing, maintaining discipline, you open your phone and see stories of people who seem to have shot ahead. This comparison is poison because it makes you forget that what truly matters isn't arriving quickly, but staying steady. Money isn't a sprint, it's a marathon of endurance. Those who speed up too much soon break down. Those who maintain their pace reach the finish line. And perhaps the greatest revelation of this section is this: you don't need to risk everything to win. Often, it's enough to risk little and for a long time. This idea goes against the immediate gratification mindset, but it protects you from ruin, because a single fall can undo years of achievements. Survival is the art of giving up immediate glory in exchange for lasting victory. It's knowing that accumulating a little every day is worth more than multiplying a lot once and losing everything later. Optimized insights. Winning with money isn't about genius, it's about survival. True wealth comes from patience and long-term discipline. Resisting the temptation for immediate results is the most valuable protection against ruin. But if by now it already seems difficult to control your own mind when it comes to money, prepare yourself, because the next trap is even more devastating. It reveals how comparing yourself to others and the endless chase for more silently destroy any sense of achievement. And it's precisely at this point that many lose control and sacrifice their peace of mind in the name of an illusion. The most dangerous money trap is believing it's never enough. You might have achieved more than you ever imagined, multiplied your income, bought what you dreamed of, reached goals that seemed unattainable, and still feel an emptiness, an internal voice saying it's not enough. This feeling is an invisible prison that traps even the wealthiest, because desire always grows faster than achievement. It's like drinking seawater. The more you consume, the thirstier you get. And this is precisely where many destroy their financial and emotional lives, because they confuse growth with happiness. Imagine someone who achieved financial freedom, but can't stop working. Someone who accumulated possessions, but never feels satisfied. Someone who looks around and sees there's always someone richer, more admired, more powerful. This endless comparison is a recipe for unhappiness, because there will always be someone ahead. Enough isn't in the account balance, but in the internal clarity of knowing when to stop. And that clarity, unfortunately, is rare. Morgan Housel reminds us that many financial tragedies happened because intelligent people didn't know when to stop when they already had enough. They chased more and ended up losing everything. It's like betting all your chips in a game you had already won. And this insatiable chase isn't a sign of healthy ambition, but of emotional slavery. If you don't define what's enough, you end up becoming a slave to an endless cycle. And here I need to ask you something important. If this lesson has resonated with you, if you recognize this trap in your own life, then subscribe to the channel and leave a like right now, because we have many more pieces of content like this that can free you from this cycle of dissatisfaction. Enough is one of the most powerful and liberating concepts in the psychology of money, because it redefines how you look at wealth. Having enough is having peace. It's being able to stop running. It's waking up in the morning and not feeling the crushing pressure of comparison. It's looking at others and not feeling lesser, because you've already achieved your measure of abundance. Enough is what separates freedom from emotional slavery. Optimized insights. The endless pursuit of more is money's biggest trap. Defining enough is the only path to financial peace. Without clear limits, even the greatest fortune can become a prison. But if defining enough already seems hard, the next challenge is even greater. How do you deal with the inevitable crises the world always puts in our path? Because no matter how much you plan, there will be storms, downturns, and moments when everything seems to collapse. And it's in these moments that the true psychology of money is tested. Crises are inevitable. They arrive without warning, topple certainties, destroy plans, and push even the most prepared against the wall. Just look at recent history. Global financial crises, Pandemics, wars, market collapses. Those who believed everything would remain stable discovered the most painful way, that life and money never follow a straight line. What differentiates those who survive from those who break isn't intelligence or technical knowledge, but the emotional capacity to resist chaos without making destructive decisions. Morgan Housel reminds us that most financial plans don't fail because they were mathematically wrong, but because people didn't emotionally withstand it when reality hit harder than they expected. The human brain hates uncertainty, hates temporary losses, and reacts irrationally when fear takes over. It's at this point that many sell assets at the worst possible time, abandon solid strategies, or surrender to collective panic. The truth is hard. If you don't train your mind to accept that temporary losses are part of the game, you'll never see the long-term gains. The market always rewards those who survive, but punishes those who give up halfway. Volatility isn't a system failure. It's the price of admission to participate in it. Each downturn is like a silent test asking if you're truly ready to reap the rewards of the future. Those who pass this test continue. Those who fail leave the game. And perhaps the most powerful example is that of the American stock market itself. In over 150 years, the market has faced wars, oil crises, bubbles, recessions, terrorist attacks, and pandemics. And yet, in the long term, the line always points upward. Not because there were no downturns, but because time always rewarded those who stayed in. Patience, here, is more valuable than any sophisticated strategy. But surviving crises doesn't just mean resisting. It also means being prepared, having emergency reserves, having a flexible plan, not relying on a single source of income or an isolated bet. The true investor isn't one who seeks perfect predictions, but one who builds a system capable of withstanding the unexpected. They understand that tomorrow will always bring surprises, and that preparation is the only way to turn those surprises into opportunities, not tragedies. Optimized insights. Crises are inevitable, but what defines success is your emotional reaction to them. Volatility isn't punishment. It's the price of admission to participate in long-term gains. Asterisk survival is more important than prediction, because the future always holds the unexpected. And if by now you've realized that the key isn't prediction but survival, prepare for the next revelation, because it exposes money's greatest force, a force so powerful that it turns small choices into gigantic results. Time. Time is the most powerful invisible force in finance, but also the most underestimated. It's easy to look at great fortunes and believe they were built through brilliant strategies, audacious bets, or moments of luck. But when we look closer, the truth is much simpler and even more impressive. They were built primarily through patience. Time transforms ordinary returns into extraordinary results, provided you stay in the game for decades. Warren Buffett's example is the best known and also the most revealing. He started investing early and maintained his strategy for over 80 years. Today, his fortune exceeds hundreds of billions. But here's the detail most people ignore. Over 95% of that wealth came after he turned 65. This means it wasn't genius that made him one of the richest men in history, but rather his ability to let time work its magic. He didn't seek shortcuts, didn't fall for the temptation of immediacy. He simply let the power of compound interest do the work. Time is like an amplifier. In the beginning, the results seem small, almost insignificant, like a seed that takes time to germinate. But as the years pass, the multiplication accelerates, the fruits grow, and suddenly that tree which seemed fragile becomes imposing. The problem is that most people don't have the patience to wait for this invisible phase. They give up halfway, switch strategies, or yield to despair during downturns. They forget that time doesn't reward haste, but consistency. And perhaps the biggest lesson is this: the true power of money isn't in making brilliant moves, but in repeating simple moves for long enough. It's like planting several trees, one after another, knowing that the forest will only emerge years later. Those who understand this aren't scared by small losses or distracted by momentary comparisons, because they know that the prize is reserved for those who remain. Time also redefines what financial success means. It's not about getting rich quickly, but about building freedom, peace, and options throughout life. It's about reaching a point where money no longer dictates your choices, but sustains the life you've chosen to live. It's about waking up without haste, deciding what to do with your day, and feeling in control. And this kind of freedom only emerges when you give time the space to work in silence. Optimized insights. Time is money's most powerful invisible force. Extraordinary wealth comes from ordinary returns repeated for decades. The secret isn't genius, but patience and consistency. But the final piece of this puzzle is still missing, because it's not enough to understand the traps, survive crises, and use time to your advantage. There's one last enemy, more silent and treacherous than all the others, your own mind. And that's what we're going to confront in the next section. Money's biggest enemy was never the market, the economy, or luck, but rather the human mind. It's the mind that creates comforting stories, that makes us believe we're rational when in truth we're guided by emotions. It's the mind that distorts reality in search of approval, status, and comparison. It's the mind that creates fears that paralyze and desires that are never satisfied. Understanding the psychology of money isn't about numbers, but about learning to master this treacherous mind that sabotages even the most intelligent. All the traps you've learned about so far, believing you're logical, that you're in control, that enough is never enough, that status brings happiness, that predicting the future is possible. All of them arise from the mind that doesn't accept uncertainty and confuses immediate comfort with real security. And that's why money, more than anything else, is a psychological matter. Those who don't understand this spend their entire life in races that never end. Those who understand it build freedom, not because they earn more, but because they know when to stop, when to wait, when to say no. And here's the final truth. The psychology of money isn't about beating others, but about beating yourself. It's about learning to find peace when everything around you seems to be at war. It's about resisting when everyone else gives in, staying calm when everyone runs, trusting in time when everyone doubts. That is the true victory. Optimized insights. Money's greatest enemy is your own mind. Enough is true freedom. Surviving the game is more important than winning fast. Time is wealth's silent multiplier. The psychology of money is about mastering yourself, not the market. Now, take a moment to think about everything you've learned here. You've discovered how illusory narratives manipulate, how time silently multiplies, how enough liberates, how crises test the mind, and how survival is more important than winning fast. These insights can transform not only your financial life, but your entire way of living. And so, if this content resonated with you, if you felt you learned something that can change your relationship with money and life, then subscribe to the channel and leave a like now. Because here we continue to bring deep insights that combine practical wisdom with emotional impact. We have videos on behavior, mindset, and strategies that will broaden your perspective in various areas. And you won't want to miss the next one. Continue this journey, because the next video might just be the one that opens the door to an even greater transformation.